Shabbat Shalom, Agudis. This week we're in Parsha Vayishlach. We have Jacob leaving where he's been for the last 20 years with his uncle Lavan and heading back to the land of Canaan, his birthplace. And on the way, he gets the message that his brother Esav is approaching him with 400 men. Now this freaks Jacob out. This is really the wound, this undealt with relationship that he's had to hold on to all these years, and he's really afraid to confront, because the last time he left his brother, he had just stolen the blessing from Isaac, from his father, and Esav, who was stolen from, swore to kill his brother for stealing this, and said he's going to wait till his father's gone and then he's going to kill Jacob. So Jacob assumes that his brother is still holding this contempt for him and this desire to kill him. And it's in that moment that Jacob kind of cracks and kind of pours out his heart to God and asks for God's protection and feels perhaps inadequate and unworthy of that protection, but really has no choice but to really just open up his heart and to pray. And the interesting thing is that after he does this, after he separates the entirety of his camp, of his family, into multiple camps, so that if one gets killed or attacked, the other one will still stand, really the worst case scenario thinking, when he meets his brother, it's actually incredibly cordial and beautiful, and they hug each other and kiss each other and cry on each other's shoulders. And Jacob really tries to grovel to Esav and show that he's, sorry, and that he gives him all the respect that he possibly can. But Esav seems like he's in a good state. He doesn't need Jacob's gifts. He doesn't really need the groveling. And it seems like he's moved on 20 years later. And I think the interesting lesson for us in this is that I know personally a lot of times when you're faced with a stressful situation, you think of the worst case scenario. You get into this catastrophic thinking, and more often than not, that catastrophic thinking is not justified once you actually get to the occasion that you're worried about. Things often go reasonably well. Sure, there may be bumps, sure, there may be uncomfortable moments, but ultimately you find a way. You find a way to make things as successful as possible, and when you finish, you think, man, what was I so worried about? And I think that's a very human thing, right? We're conditioned to fight or flee, and sometimes that's good for our evolution, to be able to think of the worst case scenario, to be prepared. But I think a lot of times it also kind of hurts us, right? And it causes us to assume the worst intentions in other people. It causes us to live in fear and to live with the assumption that things are going to go poorly for us. And it starts to sort of cascade into a negative thinking pattern, and really a fear of the tough things in life, which really happen all the time. And maybe a lack of confidence in our ability to cope. And so I think what we learn from Jacob here is we see that human tendency in us to want to go into the catastrophic, to think of the worst case scenario. But ultimately, it's a reminder that that is not always really helpful, and it's not always true to reality. And that this is kind of a story, I think, that grounds us in the truth that more often than not, we find a way to make things work, that things aren't quite as terrible as we think they might become, especially in our interpersonal interactions or in our personal lives. So that's a reminder for us, right, that we can think positively. We can kind of give ourselves the perspective and balance to think about, what if things go well? What if I can cope? What if I really am equipped for this challenge and for this task? And hopefully that will strengthen us, that we'll feel the support of the divine, and we'll feel God's presence in the things that we do, and that we won't shy away from challenges, but we'll actually embrace them and believe that things are actually going to feel great and that they're going to turn out better than we ever possibly imagined. So with that, Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and wishing us a lot of positive, hopeful thinking in our futures.